Awesome. Finally, we're here. Okay, so, the million-dollar question is, are we all about to go hungry? Are we all about to starve because of what is happening? There's no right or wrong answer to that, but I guess as we speak throughout the rest of the conversation, we can hopefully answer to the best of our ability some of these questions, and most importantly, try and stop ourselves from getting to a point where we are all going hungry. Okay, so let's go to the next slide, please. So let's start off by just discussing some very worrying statistics. About 89 million people in Africa actually go without food every day. So you that has that's had one meal or two meals, you're actually one of the very lucky ones. We have about 89 million people that actually do not eat anything before they sleep. There's about 101 million Nigerians that spend more than 100% of their monthly income on food. So if you think about that for a second, it means that over 101 million people actually borrow money to feed themselves and their family. As of today, inflation actually currently stands 21.2% year to date. So if you look at what prices we were saying at the beginning of the year till now, they've actually gone up by about 21.2%. Diesel prices are also at the highest they've ever been. Throughout all my years, I've never seen diesel, retailing at 800 naira per liter at the pumps, but that's where we are now. Nigeria also is currently borrowing quite a lot. So our current borrowing stands at around $100.07 billion. So that's what the Nigerian government owes our various creditors. And this, I'm sure, if you do any sort of business, or even if you're just opening any page in the news or browsing anywhere online, you'd find that the exchange rate is soaring. Officially is at 425, but unofficially as of today, you're looking at around 640 naira to the dollar. When you look at all these things, you see, you agree with me that we are actually in a very, very serious situation. And there's these two basic things that sort of come together to show why things become the way they become. And these are the micro and macro economics. I don't want to get too technical, but I'm just going to quickly explain the difference between these two things and how they actually drive these inflationary prices and food pricing in particular. So when we look at microeconomics, so these are like the decisions that are made by you and I and businesses that affect prices. And macro are the decisions that are made by governments and countries, not necessarily even just our country, but other countries in the world that would affect what is happening here in Nigeria. As we all know, the world is now a global economy, and things that happen in other parts of the world have a direct effect here. What has actually changed? So we are still in the middle of a pandemic. We've been having several waves of this COVID-19 pandemic, and that has caused a lot of disruption in the global food supply chain. Not only that, materials, equipment, spare parts that come to fix the machineries of the industries that are generating food here have also been highly affected. The prices for moving freight from one part of the world to another have also been highly affected as well. The war in Ukraine has caused several issues, high cost of fuel, because Russia, being one of the biggest suppliers of fuel to other parts of Europe and the world, have had a lot of sanctions imposed on them. So that has actually caused crude oil prices to rise, and crude oil prices are the thing that actually drives the high cost of our local fuel here, whether it's petrol, whether it's diesel, whether it's gas. And also there's been some constraints on like exports. The Nigeria actually only produces about 3% of something like wheat that we use in our bread. So 97% of the wheat that goes into our bread is actually imported. I'm sure a lot of you didn't know that. And Ukraine and Russia are the biggest, especially Ukraine, they're the biggest exporters of wheat. So that is also putting a lot of pressure because the grains are stuck in Ukraine and they cannot get out. Electricity shortage in Nigeria, we've had, between the beginning of this year to now, we've had like 5 system collapse. That means that we're not even able to generate 200 megawatts of electricity, a total system shutdown. So imagine having high fuel costs, having, and there's no electricity to drive these productions as well. You can see that that would have this adverse effect. Then most of our food actually comes from the north, as everybody knows. And the middle belt and the north are referred to as the food baskets of Nigeria. And you have, now there's a lot of insecurity. There's banditry, there's herdsman crisis, there's Boko Haram, all sorts of crazy things that are actually happening there. And these are big issues. Most of the arable farmlands in the north are not being farmed at the moment because of the fear of killings and kidnappings with people going to the farm. So there's a huge production problem. Also insecurity on the roads. The few things that are being produced are not able to get out from there because people are afraid that they're going to be kidnapped or their items stolen. So there's an added cost of security to move things from the north to other parts of the country, especially the south here where we are. So there's a lot of transportation cost issues and also a lot of goods and especially the perishable stuff's actually getting spoiled. So that is also contributing to the high cost of food. If we look at on the macro level, if you look at from the government perspective, you find that the government is not earning a lot of foreign exchange. Over the past years, crude oil prices were low before, and through, I would say, bad fiscal policies, we are not able to actually generate enough FX to meet obligations from importers. Nigeria actually still imports a lot of our food, even if it's not the finished items, it will be some of the raw materials that goes into the production of these foods, or even spare parts, equipment, machineries. We are very, very import dependent, and we don't have enough foreign exchange to actually pay for these goods. So you find that there's also a lull there. Another thing that we might not think about a lot, but is very important, is actually global warming and climate change. There is a lot of deforestation that is happening in Nigeria due to climate change. And for example, we've lost almost 6% of our forests in the last 7 years. That brings about a high cost of wood that goes into furniture. And obviously, furniture is part of the things that people buy when they build houses. So that's that pushes up inflation as well. So sometimes we don't pay attention to that, but it's also a very important factor. And then finally, the exclusion of some commodities from the eligibility to access foreign exchange from the CBN. The government over the last few years has cut out a lot of things that you could access foreign exchange for before, and it was initially from a good place because they wanted to be able to stir up the local production. But if you stir up local production, you still need electricity, you still need a stable environment to do that. So they have not gotten that well. So just to look at a few graphs here, just to see how fuel prices is actually rising. If you look at in 2020, it was literally about 50% of what it is now. As at today, it's somewhere actually closer to $130 per barrel. So you see that there's a huge jump in global fuel prices. Move on to the next slide, please. So Nigeria's inflation rate, it's somewhere in the region for real goods, it's somewhere in the region of 18.8%, but year to date, it's actually closer to about 21.2%. So that means that you're paying around over 21% more than what you were paying this time last year, or certainly from December till now. Next slide, please. And you can see as well that this graph just sort of shows us the difference between prices of food in the north versus what it is in the south. And the majority of, and you can see that in the south, generally food is a lot more expensive, sometimes up to 50%, 60% more expensive than it is in the north. And that's because obviously there's a transportation cost there, and there's a risk of banditry, and this has been passed on to consumers in the south. So what can we do? What can we do? I know it seems like it's all doom and gloom, but there are actually some things that we can do on the micro and the macro level. The macro things we cannot really change, but there's some things that we can do within ourselves, whether it's behavioral, whether it's a habit change, that can actually help us to weather the storm. And it has to be almost a permanent mind shift change. Some of the things are, for example, we need to start patronizing local. Everybody is used to eating foreign rice. Everybody is used to eating imported this, imported that. We need to start changing our mindset and patronizing local. The more we patronize local, the more they would improve on like the quality of the stuff that you're bringing out, and the more that we can actually be less dependent on foreign exchange. So we need to look at other substitutes. For example, we can't get wheat from Ukraine now, so we need to be looking at other things like cassava bread, or mixing cassava substitutes with wheat to actually create our own bread. So these are the sort of things that we should be thinking about. We need to be aware as well. Somebody said earlier on that they now go around and compare prices. It's very important that we do so, because there are still some deals to be had. As families or as individuals, we need to start creating food budgets. You shop with a plan, and think about places that would reward you for shopping with them. Here, we don't have a big reward culture, or we're not aware that there are places out there that will reward you for being loyal. I think we need to be more open and be more deliberate about looking for some of these reward schemes and working towards patronizing those organizations. Then we need to cut out the unnecessary food habits, move towards a healthier lifestyle. That means we're eating more at home or from home. So people that have to go to work, you cook from home and take your food to work, warm it up. These little things actually end up saving money. Then save towards your food to participate in bulk buying. Bulk buying is a great way to actually save costs overall when it comes to food purchases. I think one or two people had mentioned that earlier on, and it's a very, very important way to actually do this. Sometimes you find that it's difficult to go and buy in bulk because you see that at the end of the month you don't have anything left. Even when your salary comes, you have other things that you actually need to pay. So the idea of saving, putting money aside towards this bulk purchase is also extremely important, and we should start cultivating those sort of habits. Then everybody needs to start adopting measures that can help climate change. I know you look around and you feel that you don't have anything to contribute, or your little thing doesn't count, but imagine 1 million or people, or even 100 million people in Nigeria being more conscious about climate change and doing things that would propagate things like a circular economy, recycling, being more energy efficient, thinking twice about your CO2 emissions, waste management, all these little things that you can do within your own little surrounding actually creates a bigger global effect. And this will also help to, drive down food prices. Then shopping without the kids. For those of you that have kids or have younger ones, you find that when you go to a supermarket or a shop, they always want everything. And because of, how emotional we are to our children, we tend to give in to what they want, not necessarily what they need, because a lot of times what they want is actually the stuff that are not really good for them. So I would suggest to keep the kids at home when you want to go shopping or shop online. And then also shop infrequently. The more you shop, obviously, the more things that you don't need, you end up buying. So try to shop maybe once a month, maximum twice, do your shopping in bulk. And then obviously for the macro things that we have no control about, there's one thing that you do have control about is about your votes. Your vote is coming up in 2023, use that wisely. I'm not propagating any particular candidates. I'm not an obedient or a bad or articulated, but just think about where you're going to put that vote and use it wisely. And then, do we think that technology can actually rescue us from this decline? The answer is in twofold. Yes, if we are deliberate about it, and there are people that are actually sitting down thinking about platforms, thinking about ways to use technology to help improve not only production, using, this is where my field is, where it's more about food tech, both increasing production, increasing yield, and at the same time using that to create platforms where people can actually either save towards their food, the platforms that help you get different discounts, platforms that help you crowdfund together so that you can buy in bulk, pay when you can platforms that gives you the opportunity to, start making daily contributions towards your food, and also platforms that allow you to purchase in bulk. So there are a lot of all these food tech platforms that are coming up now, and I think this is a time that we should be a lot more deliberate in sourcing out some of these platforms and working with them. The more customers they have, the more they can actually, globally help to bring down these food prices by actually buying more. So all these things that I've mentioned here can actually help us to survive and thrive within this difficult times. The global outlook is not looking so positive for the next at least 12 months, but it is cyclical. So it will, all these dips and throws would always happen. But there are things like we've just mentioned that you can be doing within yourself to actually help with this food situation. Thank you very much. And I would take any questions that we may have within the group.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Lanre, for the presentation. And I'm sure we would have questions. I think before we take questions, I would lead the way, right? While wait for people to process all that you've said. So we have questions coming in the chat. Edo has questions, so I think I would allow them ask. Probably if they don't ask my question, I would go ahead and ask. So Edo, you can unmute and ask your question. Hi, Edo, are you there? Okay, so I'm not seeing Edo. Edo, if you are here, you can unmute and ask your question. Miriam, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Miriam.
Yeah, good evening. I just wanted to know, I'm really happy being here. I think this is a fantastic platform, but I wanted to know where are you talked about available forums or platforms or bodies that give out sort of discount ability to buy and pay in small batches. Where do we get such? How do we link up with them? And what is the possibility of you getting that to help you out? Hello, I don't know if you got my question. Hello.
Yes, thank you, Miriam. Mr. Lanre, did you get that question?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Miriam, for that question. There's several out there. I mean, I don't want to sound like I am pushing any particular platform out there, but there are several platforms, and I think I'll put some of those platforms down in the chats to everybody, because I think that's sort of like a common theme. People are asking for how they can access some of these platforms. So what I'll do is I'll just write down, once all the questions have been asked, I'll just write down some of those platforms that I have from the top of my head, and the other ones I could also pass on to the Herconomy team, and they will probably send a list out that you could look at. Some of them are not necessarily available in every single area, but the ones that are available in your area, then you could search for them. But I'll put that in the chat once we're done with this.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So we'll look out for your comments in the chat, and then when you share with us, also I think we'll share the slides with them, so we could also include that in the slide and email all participants. So I see Sheon's hand up. Sheon, you can unmute and ask your question. Before Sheon comes up, Diola, yes, the recording would be available, would also upload on our YouTube page, and then you can visit there anytime to get it. Sheon, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, sir, for your presentation. It was really insightful and, opened my mind up to a lot of things, a lot of possibilities I never considered. So my question is, if we are encouraging that more people eat from home, which I do agree with, then what about, you also mentioned about businesses using more locally sourced, including more locally produced food resources in their in their production, so like cassava bread and all of that. But in the place of, you mentioned about not going out when you're shopping, not going out with your kids because they would want junks essentially. And my question now is, if we're saying, okay, we should limit how much we patronize restaurants and food businesses, and to an extent, these businesses contribute to the economy. Because I was looking at it today and I was like, if not because we have a lot of people, small businesses here and there doing a lot of stuff, I think Nigeria would probably even be worse than Sri Lanka right now. But so I want to ask, if we encourage that and we discourage eating out, then how would, what adverse effect would that have? Or is there a way to strike a balance? Because not all food businesses some are international cuisine, some, not all of them can use the local resources we have here. So is there a balance to that? And how would it affect the economy generally?
Okay, very good question, and I'll try and answer that as best as I can. The first thing that that I'll have to say is that I'm not saying that we should not patronize restaurants. What I'm saying is that for us to be able to ensure that first things first, we're able to feed ourselves and our family, there's some things that we need to cut back. If you have the excess, then absolutely you can treat yourself and go out and eat. But see, the way things work is if we are deliberate and we really think hard and we're very deliberate about patronizing local stuff, what then happens is that we start to reverse this whole trend of rising food prices. So first we slow it down and then we start reversing it because of all the things that I mentioned, things like foreign exchange, things like demand and supply, all of those things. So when we start to reverse or slow down first and then start to reverse this increase in prices, guess what? The restaurants as well, the prices of the food that they're selling would also come down because the ingredients or the raw materials that goes into preparation of this food starts to also come down as well. But it has to be a very large, deliberate effort from a lot of people to actually make that happen. Restaurants would still have they will still have patronage, but they also, as every other business, they have to reinvent themselves. They have to start thinking about how to save costs in other ways, such that other people can actually start patronizing them as well. So we are not saying cut them out completely, but what we're saying is for you to be able to actually have those savings that would help you to sustain yourself, your family over this difficult period. There are some things that you'd have to actually cut out. And if you think about it, as a child growing up, you were not born with like a palate. You were not born with learning how to eat caviar or learning how to eat foreign rice, for example. You were born with just a normal palate. What now happens is as you grow, you start learning all these tastes. You start, and then the taste that you learn, you now become used to it. So for example, foreign rice is only foreign rice because we've called it foreign rice. Imagine if that rice was the same taste as what we had here locally, and that's what we've been used to from when we were born. We would not be thinking that foreign rice tastes better. So that's the same thing that I'm saying about our kids. Feed them local stuff so that they grow up with that palate of knowing that this is food. If you go to any other part of the world that have food sustainability, you would still find that they are eating their local stuff. If you go to England, is mash and they call it bangers and mash, that's potatoes and sausage. It is grown locally and their kids eat it from small and that's what they're used to. So if we start, using some of these ingredients from a very young age, introducing it into our diet, introducing it into our recipes, the kids will now also start, liking that, and then, they'll be less import dependent. Does that answer to an extent to your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Miriam, I saw your hand up earlier. I don't know if you put it down. But we have questions in the chat.
Hello.
And
Hello.
Okay, go ahead, please. Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I wanted to ask first, how are we going to get the recorded version of this? And at the same time, the presenter was stating he was going to provide some addresses or where we could contact them, and he was going to put it in the chat. So I thought maybe it would be more appropriate if we have it on our mails, through our mails.
Yeah, I think that's actually better. I think what I'll do is I'll send it to the economy team, and once they are responding with a slide, they will have some of these examples in your mailboxes as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. Thank you. Okay, so just to follow up, Mr. Lanre, your last response about our local produce and products, right? I was just wondering, one of the things that happened when the government stopped the importation of rice, we started having more local rice. But one of the things that people were concerned about was the quality of those products. So using rice now as an example, we saw a lot of people complain about stones in the rice, some other products like that. So how do we ensure that these products are also of high quality? So that is something that I've been thinking about, because again, you look at wheat, for example, that we can no longer import. If we have more people growing that year, I think one of the things that people will be concerned about is also quality, right? So how do we ensure that local products also have that quality that a lot of people have become used to when it comes to imported products?
Sure. That's actually a very good question. And I mean, we see that a lot even in my business, where there's a wide range of local production, and you have a lot that are below par in terms of quality, and you actually have a lot that are also very high in terms of the quality that they produce. But the thing that happens is, it's very expensive to produce locally because of all these factors that we have seen. So it's not like people actually deliberately want to cut corners, but because they will still need to compete with the prices of the bigger players that have all the equipment, they have more funds, for example, to produce in a lot higher quantity, then you find that they're not investing a lot in their quality assurance process, and some things are actually slipping. But I think with time, I mean, it's a similar thing that happened in China. When I was younger, China was known for just counterfeit goods, but now everything is produced in China because over time they've improved their quality assurance processes and other processes to actually get it there. So I think we cannot throw there's a saying that don't throw the baby out with like the bathwater. So even if we have some products that are below par, let us search for the ones that are actually good. So there are a lot of brands that take quality assurance extremely seriously, and they're doing very, very, very well. I mean, they can be compared to any other product that's actually coming in. Let us patronize those brands, and it will help the ones that are sort of lagging behind up their game, find ways to actually do better. But if we don't patronize them at all, this money is going outside. We're actually patronizing, the mills in other parts of the world, and they're developing their economy, they're having their food security, and we're suffering here.
Awesome. That makes sense. And I think before even coming, I was just having a conversation here. We're talking about how bread as what we use in producing bread, like you mentioned, cassava flour is being used as substitute. So I think the explanation makes sense. And I'll quickly go to, there's a question in the chat from Okechuku. He says, with the trend in the economy for an individual, will this be a good time to venture into the food or agriculture business? If yes, which area should one be considering?
Good question. Actually, it's a very good time. It's a very good time. If you look at I think it was the second or third slide I shared there, on the micro economic side of things, that's where investors actually make these investment decisions based on demand and supply. So you look at the areas where is there more demand and the supply is not enough to meet that demand. So depending on what sort of funding that you have, or what sort of capital, then you can look within those specific areas. There's a lot of, our staple foods are the things that everybody, whether you're low income, mid income, high income, the staple foods are things that are, always going to be necessary. I'm sure everybody has rice, beans, gari, something like that in their own pantry somewhere. So, and you don't necessarily have to start necessarily from the farmers. While it is great to go into the farms and we need more farmers, but you can pick somewhere within that value chain how things have been processed, from cassava, for example, to gari, or from or fish meals, or there's so many areas. You just have to do your research, depend on the capital you have, find out where there's more demand and there's less supply. So what you're doing is trying to fill that supply gap. So that's the sort of way you think about investments there.
Awesome. Thank you. So I'm sure we would have a lot of people looking at it, those areas that you've mentioned, that when we share the slides with them, they'll be able to make a proper judgment decision. So I don't know if we have more questions from the participants. It's 9 and we are going to be wrapping up now. I think while we wait for one last question, I was also thinking.
I actually hope. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead, please.
I actually hope that we're going to be having several more of these meetings, because I think they are very key, and it has really opened my eye and to a lot of things that I didn't know was viable. So I think I hope there will be several more. That's just it. I think it was a fantastic program, and I say kudos to all of you. It was very beautiful.
Thank you, Miriam. So we do this every 2 weeks on Zoom. Yeah, we meet like this, and we have experts like Mr. Lanre come to share with us across different topical areas. So we send out the information to members of the community, so you can just sign up to be part of the economic community. Just download the app on Play Store and sign up. That way you get to receive our emails and other communications. You could also follow us on Instagram at Herconomy, and you also get the information on sessions that we have periodically. Every week, at least every week, there's always something that conversations like this that we're having across different channels. It could be Zoom, it could be Instagram, could be Twitter, and could also be we also share emails, newsletters, and for sessions like this, you can catch up on YouTube. This would also go on our YouTube page, and you can always go back to watch or listen. So yes, we would keep at it. Thank you for joining us tonight. I hope you had a great time. So thank you, Mr. Lanre. I think in the absence of further, I'll just share a quick feedback survey. I'm launching a survey now. I encourage everyone to quickly just fill it. We have just 3 multi-choice questions, and so just there's a survey that a poll going on now. So just quickly answer the questions to help us do better. So while the poll is going on, I was trying to ask a question earlier, coming back to one of the things you mentioned, the cost of transportation contributing to high cost of food, right? Can we, out of curiosity now, is there a way we can even begin to grow some of these products down south? Some of the food items, is there a possibility growing down south here? And yeah,
that's a great point, actually. So what is happening is, and I think this is it's becoming a big policy shift down south as well, is the state governments and the local governments have actually come together, and they've started to create these things. So for example, I know in Lagos State now, there's a huge mill that is about to be launched. There is also the Lagos State Appeals Project that has created areas within Ekpe where there are cooperative communities there that are growing things like like rice, aquaculture products, poultry, So there's a lot that is happening in that space. And yes, we do have to have that balance. Unfortunately, for somewhere like Lagos and other southwestern states, the arable land is not as big. So that's where technology also, comes in. So there are a lot of greenhouse activities that are happening to grow things like tomatoes and stuff. Also, hydroponic farming is becoming quite big, where we actually grow things vertical as opposed to having them horizontally. So, technology is helping. It's creeping in slowly, but I think that's where most of the investments is actually going to come in, to help to balance that disparity of food costs from the north to the south.
Yeah, thank you for that. It just reminded me of something I did about 10 years ago. I was looking into the possibility of going into hydroponics farming, but obviously, like you say, it doesn't come cheap, and I gave up on it. I checked I remember also checking aquaponics, yes, and maybe one day we'll go back to revisit that. But thank you to everyone that has filled the feedback. I'll end it now so that we can wrap up and allow Mr. Lanre attend to some other things. So I'll just quickly share the results so that we see how. So we have about 89% having a better idea now. We have 83%. They now know how to get quality. Thank you. And then varied response on if you'd love a one-on-one session. But thank you everyone that has joined us tonight. Thank you especially to Mr. Lanre for doing this, for sharing immensely. Yeah, I see the chats. Thank you everyone that has been sending in their thank yous. It was great having everyone with us, and especially for those who joined in right from the beginning up to this point. Thank you very much. Is it okay to, yes, please invite your friends. Yes, thank you for invite your friends, and if you are not on the community, download the app, download especially the savings app on Play Store. Just you type Herconomy and you see the app and you get started. Follow us on Instagram and other social media, the same name, Herconomy. And yeah, the names of the platform on Instagram, Herconomy. So I'm typing it now out. So once you type Herconomy on Play Store, you see, just download the app Herconomy. You download the app and get started. On Instagram, that is the handle Herconomy. On Twitter, same thing. And follow us and also sign up to be part of the community. And the food, yes, you get that when we are sending the slides across. So everyone that attended, if you did not register, it will be a good time to quickly share you could also send an email to programs@herconomy.com and I'll take it up from there. Thank you, Mr. Lanre. I think before you go, I'll allow you say one or two things.
Okay, so thank you everybody for joining in. Thank you, Herconomy, for inviting me to have this talk. All I wanted to say is it's not all doom and gloom. In the midst of the trepidation, there's always opportunity. So let's look at the opportunities and let's also look at the opportunities to make things better. So good luck with everything, and I'm sure we'll have greater success stories to actually speak about very soon. So thank you all.
Thank you once again. Thank you for tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Yes, I'm sure we have. So when you sign up to be part of the community, one of the things you enjoy is discounts from our affinity partners. We have exciting discount from exciting partners. Someone that shared earlier about hair extension. So once you have, we have partners dealing in products like that, and you get discounts for purchases. right? You have as high as about 20, 25%, 15%. It varies. So, but download the app on Play Store, and you get once you download the app, sign up, you see all that. So the app is Herconomy on Play Store, and you get all the interesting discounts and packages being part of the community. So thank you once again, everyone. Thank you for all the engaging questions, and we'll send you emails to everyone that registered. I would also upload the video on our YouTube page, and we'll meet again in 2 weeks' time on Zoom. Have a great night's rest.